G'day punters, welcome to the Sydney preview for Super Saturday. We've got 3 Group 1s, we've got 2 Group 2s to get through, and of course it's great to be joined by these 2 gentlemen. Mark, Shean, I'll start with yourself. Big weekend coming up. Was there one race that really looked that you were looking forward to the most out of the card?
No, I think overall it's a great meeting. We get first look at the 2-year-olds, and then the Epsom's a fantastic race with a lot of depth. Flight stakes and also the sprint race quite intriguing. So yeah, a lot of very good races.
Beautiful. Mark Rhoden, for yourself, any of the races where you really found an edge straight away?
Not really. I unfortunately probably ended up a bit close to the market in most of the main races, but it's a Super Days racing, and I'll try and find a couple of little angles anyway.
Okay, well, we'll start in race 4, which is the Seltzer Hill Stakes, the Group 2 over 2,000 metres. Top of the market, Fierce Impact, coming up from its last start win in Victoria, and it's pretty short at the moment. Best available, $2.30. Mark, Shean, I'll give you the new ball. Anything that took your eye in race 4?
Look, I do like Fierce Impact. I've got a little bit longer than that. I've got around 13 to 8 or about 265, 270. I couldn't get it that far apart from Colding, but I do think he has got the proven 2,000 metre form, whereas Colding hasn't at this stage. He's only had one run in the Queen Elizabeth, which is on a heavy track, so you probably couldn't can him for that. But Fierce Impact at least has won at the trip, and he has trials. He came back from Melbourne, and I got him running a very good last furlong in that trial, so probably one of the best of the morning. So I think Avelius is in the wheelchair for me, even though they put the blinkers on. I don't want to be on him. To do start jumping sharply in distance, might need another run. So I got Fierce Impact on top, but hoping for a little bit better odds.
Yeah, it does look very skinny at the moment, doesn't it? Mark Rhoden, for yourself, anything in race 4?
I'll back Fierce Impact if it gets a touch better than this. I've 225 sort of on the cusp of what I'd want. It's a strange race. This one, you've got 3 weight for age horses against the remainder who aren't weight for age horses, to be honest, and Avelius does look cast, really. I think it's wet track or nothing, and but its last start was its worst run since its Melbourne Cup failure 2 years ago, so that sort of puts the writing on the wall, that especially on hard tracks he might be gone. So that leaves you with Fierce Impact and Colding just that little bit sus at 2,000. Yeah, that's why I'm leaning the way I am. Remarkable horse, really, Fierce Impact. He came over as sort of a benchmark horse, established himself there, then established himself in sort of Group 3, then he won the Toorak, then he won the Cantava. Now he's a fair income Group 1 horse, and yeah, he's the way I want to go, but I just want to touch better price.
Yeah, can't argue at all with the arguments that both of you have made there. Fierce Impact for me, and like you, Mark Shean, I'm just looking for another nice run out of to-do start. That last start form's looking, or 2 starts ago, so far this prep, its form's looking quite decent, and just the way it hit the line, it does look like it will be suited stepping up in trip. So potentially if they walk, it might very well be able to at least loom in the straight and look like the winner at some point.
Well, he was pretty fat at Randwick, and that was 1,400. So just worried me going from the 14 to the 2,000. He was scratched from a white barrier the other day, so maybe he might need one more, especially at this level.
Sure. Okay, race 5, Flight Stakes over the mile. And Hungry Heart, Dame Giselle obviously dominate the market. Interesting that Hungry Heart has the last start SP over Dame Giselle. Probably had that the excuse, I guess, in the run, but certainly it does look like the horse that will be suited stepping up to the 1,600 in terms of what it's done so far in its career. Mark Shean, you've been with this horse for a little while. Is that the way you're leaning there on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm just hoping that James rides a little bit more aggressive than his last couple of runs, where he's probably been a bit passive waiting, and then he did get in an awkward spot there the other day when Thermosphere came up on the outside. I suppose Joviality coming into this race puts a bit more speed into it, and Dame Giselle drawing barrier number 1, whether he wants to give the fence up or take on Vangelic for the lead and then see what Joviality does in the early stages. So some decisions to be made there by Tommy Berry, I suppose, whether he wants to give Dame Giselle a smother to run the mile.
Yeah, I had Dame Giselle in the coffin or the box seat. Mark Rhoden, how did you have the race mapped?
Yeah, just let me get it up here. I'm pretty sure I had a box seat Dame Giselle. I did, yeah. I've got Vangelic, Joviality outside, Dame Giselle taking the trail, little gap to Hungry Heart, who doesn't need to give away too much of a start from 4, I wouldn't think. Yeah, I mean, if I was a bookie, if I was in my past life as a price assessor and throwing up markets, I'd just put them up equal and say, you work it out, boys. I've actually marked them 2.90 each at 2. Dame Giselle has the 2-0 record this time in. Hungry Heart is obviously looking for the mile. Dame Giselle maps in front of Hungry Heart, so whichever case you make for either one, you're right, in my opinion. I'm not going to bother to try and split them. The early market just seems to be tending in the direction of Hungry Heart, which doesn't entirely surprise me. If Dame Giselle got out to 3:30 or 3:50 or something, depending on how the track was playing and so on, I might be tempted. I think I'm going to back Montefilia, who had the 42-day break and arguably wasn't in the best part of the track on that occasion either, against this, the same couple of horses. It's a little bit hard to make the case that she can turn the tables, but she's looking for the mile. And if Joviality is there to make a bit of pace for her stablemate, that'll help Montefilia as well. And it's getting out to something like double figure odds now. So I'd probably rather spec it at that sort of price rather than nail my colours to the mast and charge into one of the 2 top picks.
Sure, makes sense. I've got zero interest in this race.
Oh.
So that's me done. Race 6, the Premier Stakes Group 2 over 1,200 and Nature Strip. Odds on, once again. Mark Shean, what are we doing with Nature Strip, given it's had 2 trials and I guess both were a little bit suspect?
Yeah, well, tossed the jockey at the first and then a little bit tardy in the second and was ridden back. Look, this is a horse that I really haven't caught, so I haven't backed him all that often and I haven't collected off him. I know that. So whereas Classic Legend, every time I've gone to the well there, he's normally delivered. So I'm going with the grey.
Yep.
The last time these 2 clashed was in the Everest, where Nature Strip led and Classic Legend was luckless. There was about a length between them. I think Classic Legend's going better now than he was then. And just the variance in price, I'm going with the grey with Classic Legend.
Love it. Mark Rhoden. I guess we should touch on probably how the track's potentially going to play. We've got rail 3 metres and on the day there's a northeasterly forecast. Are you factoring that in for a race like the Premier?
A little bit. I mean, a northeasterly will make life difficult but not impossible for leaders and fence and run horses, I think. Statistically, it's pretty fair, the 3-metre position on dry ground. The Randwick Guineas meeting back in March was very much up the inside, but I think they had a southerly that day, and that's not going to be the case. So I certainly don't think it's going to be leaders or mad rail or anything like that, but I think it'll be pretty fair. And I won't be, certainly going into the meeting, I won't be put off leaders. And he should lead, even if he does, well, assuming he doesn't throw the jockey. If he gets out of the machine, even a length behind him, he should lead because there's not a great deal of other speed in the race. So he should, even if he doesn't step, muster pretty quickly and find the front. I'll just stick to my old back of the envelope rule. You back him at $3 or better and don't back him if he's shorter. And he's going to be shorter, so I'm not going to back him. Classic Legend is clear second pick, but put it this way, we ended up getting better than $5 Guitra against Nature Strip last time, and I think Guitra is a bit better than Classic Legend, and Classic Legend's only 3. So while I can certainly see Classic Legend possibly turning over Nature Strip if he's having an off day, $3 is pretty, it's about right. And away from them, just having a dream with Libertini maybe, but I don't need to bet in this race. Libertini I thought was trialling all right, and she might get the right run at, you couldn't back the Seeker or Standout to be knocking over either of the top 2, so it does probably look like a no-bet race to me. Maybe Nature Strip gets beaten again, we get $4 or something the Everest, and I chime in then, we'll see.
I was just going to say it almost would be a perfect setup, wouldn't it? If he gets beaten here and then lobs at a price in the Everest, it would just be the perfect Nature Strip, narrative, so to speak.
That's right. Twitter would love it anyway.
Look, I tend to agree. I mean, it's I was leaning towards Classic Legend. I think we'll get a better price on the day, and if it drifts out to around greater than 360, I'll probably chime in, because I think, like you, Mark Shean, I've had a bit of success with that horse in the past, and I'll probably get sucked in with the Saturday momentum, so to speak. But we'll jump into race 7, which is over the mile. It's the Epsom, and there's all sorts of angles in this race. The barrier draws caused a bit of havoc, but probably the hardest part for me was finding a dead set leader in this race. And to be honest, I still haven't quite come to the conclusion. I've got Riadini, Wild Planet, looks like Elvis possibly with a change there, leading with a little bit more, or being ridden with a little bit more vigour. We saw last start, it was almost just restrained for a bit of cover. And then Brandenburg, they're probably the most likely to take up the running. Mark Rhoden, did you have something different on your speed map?
No, I had Riadini, and originally just thinking it was the emergency who got the run and they don't want it. So it's gone. So Riadini at stablemate probably leads. Wild Planet at 1600, definitely up there. Thought Mr. Seawolf would be up there from 4, seeing they had success with it sitting second last time. Brandenburg looks like Elvis. I've got next line. Yulong Prince and Star of the Seas certainly won't be in the contest for the lead, but they won't be too far away from 1 and 2. I think the official map had Reloaded leading, which...
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I couldn't have found in a million years. But I tell you what, that's probably his best chance of finishing in the top 5, because he's in a slow run mile. He won't outsprint anything. He looks like he's towing a caravan when they go for it. So I couldn't have picked it, but it might be the way to go for him.
For sure. Mark Shean, what are you doing in the Epsom? Have you found a bet here?
Yeah, look, I was a bit worried about the pace. Well, I've been waiting for Rock to get to a mile at Randwick on a dry track. He did get a very fast pace at Newcastle, which he probably won't get there on Saturday, unfortunately. But I just think that he ran a good race in this race last year. Wasn't all that far behind Star of the Seas, and that was on a wet track, which he doesn't like at all. Dynamic win and the there, but coming off a fast pace. But I think with only 52.5 on his back, he'll run a great race. I thought Vanna Girl originally had some sort of a chance here with no weight on her back as well, but again, she's going to be a back marker and probably need a lot of luck. But I was going to spec her with only 50 kilos. And just the way the race is going to be run, probably Wild Planet be right up there. So they're the ones for me, 13, 20 and a 9, but I could have easily missed the winner.
Yep, I was happy to have something on Wild Planet at the price, just given on the map more than anything. And being pretty happy with the way that it hit the line there last start. I thought it did look like it would be appreciating the step up towards the mile. Similar to yourself, I wanted to find Vanna Girl, and I'll still have a stab at the price. I think the last start splits were just, again, too good to ignore, and just at the price, I'm happy to have something on. Might be able to get into a 3 wide, 4 wide line, and just, especially if they tend to drop anchor on the corner, you never know if there's an uncertain leader up front, may well be able to get a toe into the race. And the other horse that's drawn wide, and I don't really know what to do with it, but Imaging is just going really well this prep without being suited at all, and it probably won't be suited again there on Saturday, but I would just be sick if it got up at double figures. So that's the way I'll be playing. Not a huge betting race for me, but willing to spec each of those runners. Mark Rhoden, for yourself.
Yeah, don't know yet. I've got Star of the Seas on top from Rock. Star of the Seas is going to need luck from 1. If he gets too far back, it will put him in big trouble. And the price is short enough, I think. Rock went super last start when it did set up very nicely for him. If he repeats that, he's right in this. Wild Planet's the one I'm going to have another look at. I was talking with my cousin about this race this morning, and he's got Wild Planet favourite, and I was a bit iffy about it at 1600. But the way this map's going to set up, if it is a slowly run race and he's up second, the 1600 isn't anywhere near as much of a factor as originally, so it might have been a bit tough on him. There are a lot of other chances, obviously. Just on figures, Funstar and Probabeel at their best have got chances, but they're both drawn terribly. Imaging, as you mentioned, is drawn terribly. Yulong Prince is drawn well, but surely not. And yeah, Vanna Girl map's awful. It's a tricky race. If Nash can get, say, Star of the Seas 3 fence and get the run when he needs to, I think he's probably the one to beat. But yeah, a lot of ways you can attack this.
Yeah.
He's an interesting runner, isn't he? Like, I backed him in the Epsom last year, and he placed in that race. Then he ran in a Doncaster. Both of those on wet tracks.
Yes.
And he looked a wet tracker, but he's
Not on last
certainly
start.
grown a leg in the last 6 months, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, and that was there was nothing wet about that track last time, and he ran really well. So, yeah, I was same as you. I had him labelled a bit of a wet tracker. He'd run all right in some benchmark races on dry ground earlier, but he looked to have come into his own in the better races on wet. But I think just on last start alone, I can't really call him a wet tracker only.
All right, it's an outstanding race. Can't wait to see what the market does with it. And then race 8, the other Group 1 on the card, the Metropolitan over 2,400. Mugatoo short, dominant, has been on track for a while. You've got other horses like Hush Rider, Remember Rocks and Zabrowski. I remember when we did the review show probably a month ago when we were talking about Remember Rocks was on track. I think it was 50 to 1 at that stage, and now all of a sudden it's $8 and equal second favourite for the Metrop. And I'm just looking at that price and think, surely not at that price. Mark Shean, the Metrop, is sticking with Mugatoo. You've been with it a few times this prep.
Yeah, well, don't bring up Brigham Rocks. I was on it 2 years ago at the futures there. It's got beat an eyelash anyway. Look, I think Mugatoo's going to be hard to beat, but I think 7 to 4 is a bit skinny. I'd like about 5 to 2. I think he's going to put himself in a good spot. This only a reasonably short run to the first turn here, and there's a lot of horses drawn wide, so I wouldn't mind being in a nice, decent spot there, about 1 off the fence going in the first turn, which I think Mugatoo will be. Obviously, Zabrowski comes in well at the weights and probably been looking for this trip. I still don't know if he's just a wet tracker, though. He might be a dry tracker, and I think Rondinella's been ticking over quite nicely. For the record, Mugatoo, but there's easier races to bet in.
What are we doing with a horse like Etta James? It's had the trials coming into this, and I mean, you have to respect the stable to a certain degree, and here it is drawn reasonably well for Mara and Eustace at huge odds.
Yeah, you wouldn't respect the stable too much if you'd backed some of their favourites in staying races recently in Sydney.
Yeah, true. Could be 14 lengths last going in towards the turn then. Mark Rhoden, any angle for yourself in the Metro?
I've got Mugatoo on top at $4, so $2.72 short for me. That said, I've got him well clear. I'm $9 the questionable Zabrowski, questionable on dry Zabrowski. Next pick, then I've got a clump of them. Looking for little bits of value, maybe Mirage Dancer, who I think's ticking over quite well in Melbourne. 2,400 Nash, tick. One at the bigger odds, I mean, I might be having a dream. And you certainly wouldn't back it against Rondinella off their last start, but Tariff Lifetime has some pretty good figures, and he's desperate for this trip. I mean, 2,400 is probably minimum for him these days, and he's 40 to 1. You can get 40 to 1, so I'll spec him for sure, but won't die of shock if he does nothing either. But yeah, it does stand out the favourite for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a pricing issue.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's not really a race that I had a great deal of betting interest in. But yeah, Mirage Dancer was the one, just with the soft gate. I'm often partial to backing stayers with the low draw, and sometimes I just get the dreams run and spend a lot less energy and get a clear run into the straight. So that was probably the way I was going to opt, just a very, very small bet on Mirage Dancer there in the Metro. Okay. Best bets, best value bets, best lays, anything else on the card that might interest you? Mark Shean, I'll start with yourself.
Like Hilo in the last, I didn't like the way it paraded the other day. Ran through to win and just knocked up the last little bit. So I think it looks to be a bit of speed in that race with Burning Crown. I think it will be let loose if it jumps out and put the pace on in the race. So I think Hilo. And I was going to lay a Villiers. Hopefully it doesn't get out too far, and put it in for the lay in the pink column, race 4.
I like it. Mark Rhoden, for yourself?
Yeah, not a day that's super best bets for me and what I've done so far. I'll make it, if we get 250-ish fierce impact, I'll be pulling the trigger. Yep.
And I found Hilo in the last as well. Was really keen to follow that horse wherever it went, just off what it did last start in terms of the sectional breakdown using the punting form data. So, and I think that different form, it's not a great deal of form in that race, it must be said. So I was prepared to take a stab with that horse and think it should be favourite. It's currently just short just shorter than a theory to stablemate. So I'm pretty confident that horse will shorten and start a firm favourite. Okay, thank you to you both. We'll catch up on Monday to review Super Saturday. Can't wait for the card. All the best to you both.
See you then.
Thanks very much. Talk then.